Good afternoon, or good morning if you're in America. So we are going to do the presentation. We're about 3 o'clock in the afternoon in the UK. Normally I do these at 3:30. My apologies for everyone. If you're on the West Coast, you got up earlier. Well, everyone got up earlier, but anyway. We are going to look today at promos, bundles, and closers. So these are short-term tactics to fix problems. Really critically, these are not making your business better. These are getting you out of jail. These are things that are going to help you within the year, or they're going to help you get some traction in the market. But overall, these are not necessarily the right things to do to create this kind of like Apple type business that you want to own. If you look at Apple, they tend not to do many deals. I can't get a discount. They do some deals and upgrades and bits and pieces, but generally that's probably for their own good. So what are we going to talk about today? Well, the general idea here is we need to show more in 2024. How are we going to do it? That's the problem. That's what we're going to talk about today. If it's we need to show more in 2025, a different plan. If we need to show something more in 2027, for example, well, that's an engineering, product plan and planning and funding and everything else problem. Today, our problem is simply we got to get some numbers in. How are we going to get the numbers in? What are we going to do to get these things working? So this is our definition of our problem, and we're going to go through 10 steps in my very standard format to go through and give you some things to think about with this. The first thing I want you to think about is that promotions are like credit cards. They have a tendency of you spending that money before you've got it, right? We are basically, with promotions, we're taking a lot of orders out of the future, and we're going to sacrifice revenue for them. They are not great. They are, however, as I said, needed. Throughout my career, I've managed to enable to save businesses, stop major changes in businesses, simply because the number had to be met. If you've got to get a number this year and you've got to get to your numbers, then basically promotions may get you to live and fight another day. That's what they're going to do. But the problem is probably going to still be there in core one, and the problem is going to be there until you fix it. And the problem has a tendency about normally being related to brand or positioning or products or something else, maybe even your go-to-market. But overall, promotions are only ever really going to fix now or the period of time that you choose, and they give you that fighting chance. And a bit like if you have no money, you can get a credit card, you still haven't got any money to pay the credit card, but what you've done is push that bigger problem further down the road. And a lot of the times that's okay. And remember, salespeople can cover about 2 to 3 quarters max of serious problems before you get to having to change something fundamental within the business. So what does a fix look like? So we say we're going to fix it, we're going to get more this year, and we've got 2 ways of getting more. We can get more orders or we can get more revenue. What does your boss want? Both, obviously. The reality of the situation is you need to make a choice over what you're going to try and get before you go any further. Orders are fantastic. They're about showing commitment, aren't they? They're about showing progression. And they're incredibly low risk for a customer. Hey, can you place an order for me? It'd be really appreciated you do this. Don't worry about it. It's provisional PO. We can do all these things. We can make it work. Just you were going to do it anyway. You don't have to take it until second half of next year. Anything. These are low commitment things to do. And they give us a piece of paper that said, I have value. This is like holding a letter of intent or holding something. There is something that just say, I have value. The same way you give them the commitment when you ask someone to marry you. The revenue is different. This is us saying, right, we actually need the cash. And we need the cash because we need to fund what's going on. And this is significantly higher risk for a customer because they could have done something with that cash. They don't really need to move there. So now they're really looking for a trade that they can really live with and explain throughout their business because they're buying something with that cash. This is an entirely different proposition. So when you're looking at the fix, what are you trying to do? Show that there's something there? Or are you trying to get the actual revenue in because you need the financial numbers to make that make sense? Revenue is going to be multiple times harder. I didn't even put a number on it, but it's significantly harder to get people to change physical money, but actually make commitments that they have time to move or adjust or feel comfortable about. Commitments are great because they were probably going to do it anyway, and you're moving people to a probably would do it anyway state. Then you got to think about what the tactics you're going to do are going to be dependent on all of these different parameters. Like Who are you going to do these promotions to? Are you directly in communication with your end users? Or even if you're using a channel, do end users listen to you and then get service through a distribution channel? So, or are you just trying to do it to your channel? Are you trying to promote to your distributors? Or are you trying to promote to someone and say, you should take more, right? You should do more with us. That's an entirely different proposition of who you're going to do it with. What you're going to do, what are you planning on doing in terms of your discounts? Flat discounting, bundles, deals, stuff in the channel, all those different things are in there as well. And they're going to be dependent on what you're going to try and do as well. And then finally, when. And one of the biggest problems are that half the promotions I'm going to talk about today, you cannot use this year because unless you have tremendous amounts of intimacy with the customer, there's a caveat there, because it takes a tremendous amount of time to get some of these promotions to bed in, let alone your customers to know, because it takes them time to find out information. If you're already talking to them, that's great. But what if you weren't talking to them and they're in a giant sea of customers out there that you need to work with? So really, you've got to think about, well, how long is it taken to get my message and then get an order through? If it takes 6 months for someone to get a purchase order created because it has to go through committees and everything else, then your promotion is probably not going to do anything. But, think about, candy bars at a gas station, or for British people, chocolate bars at a petrol station checkout, right? They're low value, pretty good. I get 2 biscuit boosts for £1.50 or whatever it needs to be. It's immediate, it's low value, it's low risk. So sometimes we can act very, very quickly if I don't have a problem. People always act quickly with problems, so don't worry about it. But if it's a short-term thing, we can move it there. So the next thing is, and I want this to really bed in, if there is no story, there should be no promotion. And this comes down to, I think, my general rules, which is if you can't tell a story of why you're doing something, don't do it. If you've not established any value or reason in what you're doing, don't do it. If you're just going to go out there and whore yourself out and say, I need cash, don't do it, right? Unless you absolutely have to and everything's on the line. But everything needs a story. Never give a discount without a reason. Never do anything without a reason. It needs a story. So every promotion, every price reduction, every change in your value that you've tried to justify, you need to have a story. Otherwise, it doesn't work. Your justification doesn't work. You're just saying, look, I was overcharging you, right? So don't do it. Don't have a story unless you've got it correctly put in. And part of the justification is always about a trade. And it's completely fine to have a trade. And there are little random things that happen in your life. And one for me was, I read an article in the EasyJet in-flight magazine when I was traveling to Scotland, probably 15 or 20 years ago, because I don't know, I just stare at my phone now. And it was by Theo Pathetis, which is an investor in Dragon's Den, or for America, think Shark Tank. And he simply said, every deal works best when both parties walk away with the balloon. And I kind of live by this. And, there's always a thing. If I get a discount, why? Because you gave me an order now. Because you lived through some uncomfort. Because you gave something up. Because you gave me some data. Because you did something fast. What are we doing to get this trade? What is happening and going on with this? So the better the story, the easier it is to work, the more you can get the savings and so on. So let's have a look. The next one. What do you want your promotion to do? Do you want it to drive new business or close open business? And the answer is always from management, well, I wanted both. And of course they want both, as we always have to say through. We will find in management, we just find a different stick to beat you with, but we want everything. Why don't we want everything? We want everything. We want you to drive new business and interrupt everyone else's business that was happening. But at the same time, we'd love you to close some existing stuff and bring it in. So you have to design which one you want. Now, sometimes they accidentally drive the other, right? Because you'll do a promotion, you'll legitimize it, you'll go through all the processes, and someone else will find out about it. That's fine. But realistically, you got to pick which of the ones you're going for. If you get the other stuff, brilliant accident, fantastic. So what do we have? Closes. Closes are just deals for getting people over the line. These are for people on the fence. Look, you're either going to buy me or them. You're either going to buy now or in a month's time. You're either going to buy this or a fridge. You're either going to do something, right? There's just an option for people. And what they are is they're umming and ahhing about the situation, and they don't really have the problem and the timescales, and you're going to try and force the timescales. And basically, these are best when you do some form of increase in perceived value. Because they were relatively close on the price, you can play around with the price, but you're going to throw something in, right? This is anybody who's ever bought a car from new, you understand that there is car mats. And there's a bit where you go, I'm not paying for car mats. By the time you bought your second car, you're in, no, they're in free. What else we got? Right? So you just know that there are additional things that people put in constantly, and car manufacturers are masterpieces of permanently manipulating promotions, because one ends and another one comes through, right? So these don't really drive new customers. They can accidentally drive new customers, but you can go through and look at your opportunity list, and you can say, if we legitimize this promotion, could we do more with it? And that's a really important thing. Salespeople who are any good are doing this constantly in their head. I mean, they are washing up the dishes after dinner, thinking about what they could do to do this. They're kind of working out, how do I reduce friction constantly to get people over the line? The problem with these tends to be when you're using a dealer channel, unless you have a tremendously high degree of intimacy to sell to the end user through your dealer channel, then you're going to take a long time to get these things done. I've done these promotions through dealer channels, and they never really got through, but my direct channels were able to deliver them very, very quickly. So again, you can kind of take these through, and you will find people lost opportunities. We had them as kind of like what we call dormants, people that were interested. You have a lot of opportunities to go out and try and use these closers and promote them out to the wider world and go with it. And you can actually make these things start to happen to get your end of year up. The alternative to these is initiators. And these are designed to do a couple of things. The first one is interrupt someone in an existing buying process, or to inspire someone to purchase because of value shock. So if you think about it, we always talk about like a buyer journey and go, oh yeah, I've got a need. I go for information shirts. I do a demo. Well, you jump up and down this thing like electrons in an energy belt. You are moving people up and down that buying journey by causing interruptions and going, oh my God, now they've done this. Oh my God, now they've done that. So you're always thinking about, well, okay, these initiators, these are things like, I thought you could do this. We have this brand new thing. Have you ever thought about it? The other thing is like to inspire, a purchase because of shock. Oh my God, I never knew I could get one of those. That's fantastic. So there are different things you kind of get around this. So what are you trying to do? Are you trying to get someone to take a leap of imagination and initiate it, or are you trying to get a closer? Initiators kind of rely more on marketing. Closers tend to rely more on sales, but they're kind of in the middle of it. But the smaller they are, the better they are, because they tend to be lower risk, higher emotional purchases. And for some people at the end of the year, spending 10 or 15, or, in large cases, capital equipment, and that might as well do it, right? So there are cases for it that do this. Actually, and I'll talk about this a little later on, but there is a company out there that I know will be in about 5 days releasing on large capital equipment that normally is somewhere between $100,000 and $500,000. They will immediately put a blanket 25% discount on for the last 2 months of the year. And it just teaches us when to buy stuff. Every country in the world has some process where people are really easy to manipulate, and the price you should be paying is wrong. And so in this example, I was at my brother's house on a very rare occasion, in my sort of probably mid-20s, helping him do up a house. I wasn't very useful. But I remember he had the Windows salesperson came around, and he said, oh, I'm going to try and get a discount. And I said, it is the 29th of the month on the last month of the quarter. You can pay what you want. This guy has got a boss. This guy's boss is looking for discounts. He's trying to close as much as he can. You're super important. If you can get those stuff done today, he would do it. I think my brother got it to about half. And maybe he could have got it to a third. Who knows? But there's a certain degree of, we educate people. We've got to be kind of careful of that. And you find this in dealer channels, particularly with stuffing. You get used to it. So let's talk about dealers. And let's talk about that marvelous first word I said there, stuffing. Stuffing the channel, shoving it down their throats, a true short-term tactic that comes back to bite you. This is a blip in supply. Let's get it. Let's push it down. And the general concept of stuffing is, I know I have a distribution channel, and I know, look, you don't have orders for these. Don't worry about it. We both know you're going to sell these. Just take 20 of them, and we'll give you 5% more. And effectively, you're saying, we'll give you more discount, and the discount we will give you will be better than the interest on the money that you will get in a bank account. That's what you said. I mean, generally, when you boil it down, that's sort of it. And there are a couple of reasons for stuffing the channel, giving them extra, maybe it's extra product, extra discount, whatever you want to call it. But the first one is simply that you're trying to get them to push more. They have other alternatives that they can use. They might be direct alternatives, like a same product from a similar supplier, or it might be a completely different thing. But I guarantee you put it on the shelf, and that salesperson will be incentivized to shift that fast. The other thing is that you get pulling in. So you're basically saying, look, you're going to get these orders. Let's show these earlier. Let's bring them in. Let's bring those numbers in. Can you please go and borrow from next quarter? So when you have consistent businesses, particularly distribution channels, not OEM, because they have a tendency, they might do, but they are kind of less around it. But distribution channels tend to be pretty good at stuffing if you need to do this to them. Again, you have to be in the privileged position to have these relationships with people in order to do these things. These really are learned behaviors, and they are dangerous, but they do allow a lot of high-level management to smooth out their graphs, right? That's what they're trying to do. But it's the ultimate credit card solution, right? I'll put the holiday on credit card. Let's hope I get paid more next month, and we'll work it out. Then you've got greasing the wheels. And someone said to me the other day, they said, oh, well, we have these promotions with our discounts and our dealers and everything where if they sell more, they get better discount. They don't care. They don't really care. They don't really care. They're servicing demand. And particularly the people who are doing the feet on the street stuff, the actual salespeople, how are you helping them? So in many sort of dealers and VARs where they have some selectional choice over the products, do I sell you? Do I sell another? Even do I sell my company's solution or my company's other solution? Which one am I going to push? Because most people have consultative sales nature. They'll sell A or B or C or D. Then we can try and have some impact over their sales channel. And there are a few different ways of doing this. There are things like SPIVs, salesperson's incentive vouchers. Anybody who's ever done anything who's been given an Amazon card has had a SPIV, right? Or SPIF, which is a salesperson's incentive for fast ordering. So I don't know why there's two Fs, but anyway, there is. Now, you can do these with your own salespeople. And remember, we have things called income tax, and we have things called, tax offices that want to know about these things. But you can do these things for your distribution sales channel. You have to be very open about them. They have to be in countries that have this as legal. But this is very common. We used to have this in North America where we had a distribution network with 100 salespeople. It would be very clear. They would sell a product and they would receive $1,000 each. We kept on then getting, oh, well, they're involved as well. It was a manipulation of the market. It's not comfortable, but there is a way of doing it in particular ways. You can also agree with distribution channels that are seeing this as well, that are working or want to work with you. You can agree to help pay additional bonuses through their systems, give them privileges, give them commissions, do whatever you want, because they're selling your products. And again, it is manipulation. Just understand what it is. The first two are manipulation. Then you can do other things like run competitions and hand out cool stuff. We used to do like dealer webinars. And when we do the dealer webinars, we'd have this thing where the first person to write the answer to a question in the chat would get something. And I met one of these people last year, and they said, I did this thing with you once, and you said this about a camera, and it was I got these Bose headphones with like Prime 95B run on it. I bought loads of those Prime 95Bs. I got these Bose headphones. I'm like, yeah, they were $100. I mean, that wasn't not a difficult thing to give away to people. Particularly instead of giving 10% off a product, $100 headphones pretty easy. So anyway. The other thing is you've just got to find it easier for them to win with you. rather than another way around. And please understand that they don't want to sell in your way. What you understand is making it easier might not be easier for them, and you really have to have some engagement over what makes it easier for them. And you have to listen to all the annoying things that you don't think are really annoying. But you've really got to try and understand by talking to them directly and also listening to them in between the lines to work out, as part of their process of selling something, how do you just make it so easy for them to win? So overall, with distribution channels, we can stuff them, we can grease the wheels. And for me, I think there's a big thing. Again, remember, it's the end of the year. What can we do for the end of the year is the premise. What we're doing here is we're saying, what can we do to help a foot soldier? What do they want? Now, what about end users? How can we have some influence over end users? Well, the first thing is flat discounting. Pay 30% less than you would do. Or as I like to think of it, we were overcharging you and we want your cash now. We completely misunderstood our value to price proposition, and we want to destroy that in front of you, and you get X% off. And again, there are stories. We have excess stock. We have demo units. We've ended up, someone canceled an order, so we've got 30 of these things. Whatever you want to do to make the story out of it, you can do it. But 30% off or something like that educates the market, destroys value, and it'll really irritate other people in your business because they go, why are we doing this? It doesn't make sense. It's horrible. We made all this effort. We did all this work. And now you're saying it wasn't worth it. We got our pricing wrong. The other thing that I think is really, really clear on this is that you have to do it all the way through. All these promotions that you're going to do, they have to be with established solutions, right? So don't do something and go 30% off something you've never heard of, or 30% off a way of doing it that's not accepted in the marketplace that you don't know what it is, right? Don't launch a new product that no one understands and give 30% off it because you got it. That's a complete fail. It's like I was working with this customer who's developed this solution, and they were hell-bent on telling everyone it's in stock when no one wanted it because they didn't understand what it was. Telling people it's in stock wasn't helping anyone. Right? So always understand flat discounting is going to be the most attacked and the most irritating, and to be honest with you, probably the least useful approach. I am always a big advocate of doing two other things. The first one is low-level fast things that take a little bit of automation and thinking about. But immediately post-purchase promos. There is a state where I remember that James, Matt, and I were in a terrible place, and we just went, right, let's just go get, how many bulbs can we get at 400 quid a pop? Let's just go get those. We managed to get a bunch of them. It was just like we managed to get ourselves over the line by simply saying, you should get another bulb for that. Spare parts, consumables, service and warranty, all of these things, trainings, upgrades, anything else which is a low value or low kind of risk improvement on their current status, which is 9 times out of 10 coming out of an entirely different budget, right? If you are thinking now, okay, there is budget to be spent, I tell you where that budget to be spent probably is, or it's either spent or overspent, right? Training courses. I bet you people haven't spent their money this year on training courses, right? I bet you they haven't spent any money on that. I bet you that people have got money left in their spares and consumable budgets. I bet you there are people who've got warranty budgets ready for next year. I bet you there are people that could put money in because they put some money aside to do upgrades or things to their existing systems or solutions. These are just really low friction, very, very easy, simple things that you can use to kind of get you there. And these are normally, high. They're kind of low value and should be low effort. So they should be easy things for people to pick up and go with. The last thing is, what I kind of like is what's always worked and seems to work across tends to be some form of value add and bundles. So can I add value to you by giving you what you are willing to pay, or slightly less, and give you more value than I originally promised you? And what you're basically doing here in many situations is saying, the value proposition that we put out to the market may have been a little bit wrong, but look, you get this extra thing. And it doesn't even matter if you know what to do with it yet, because it's fine, because you're getting an extra thing. Now, that might be a PC, software they weren't intending to do and was on the maybe list, whatever it needs to be around it. But that extra thing is giving them the value and the reason to do something. It can also be a free thing for them, right? So there is, as long as there's kind of an attachment to something, you know, we had with distributors, as an example of this, we had a bunch of little distributors that took 3 cameras a month. We turned around in summer one month and just said, look, and we all knew they sold competitive cameras, and we knew if we had us on the shelf, we could drive it. We just did a summer promotion, which was if you bought 5 this month in a sort of 3 of the little dealers, this was in the UK, wasn't global. And we had about 10 dealers, and I think 7 of them took up and bought 5 because they got a Nintendo Wii. Nintendo Wii was nothing, right? And you should really ask yourself this question, particularly in end user sales, which is, what is cheaper? Is it a 10% discount or an Apple Watch? Well, look, an Apple Watch is $500. People go, he doesn't know how much Bose headphones is. He doesn't know how much Apple Watches are. He doesn't ask him the price of milk. He's out of touch. Well, let's assume it's $500. Well, the first thing is, if your product costs more than $5,000, by default, giving them a watch is going to be cheaper than giving them 10% discount. And here you're basically going to, particularly at the end of the year, you're going to spare cash resources, moving them around, but you're doing it in a way which is trying to give them more value from it, while maintaining as much value as you can perceive and telling the best story about the reason we're doing this, if it gives you, and this is our way of doing it. It is probably one of the nicest ways to do something if you've got someone who wanted A and was interested in B, or wanted A but would love to have the latest ... So that's another way of thinking about it. Anyway, the last thing to kind of think about here as we go into this is just absolutely proceed with caution. And it dawned on me, a few kind of like maybe months ago or a year ago or so. My father used to teach us how to drive. We had a boat, right? Let me check us out. We had a boat and we drive it into locks. And my father had this very simple approach to, like, how do you drive a boat into a lock so you don't crash it? And the answer is you just go slowly. So if you don't want to cause damage, you go slower. If you want to cause damage, drive really fast, right? So that's what you got to think about here is, what would this do? Is it going to do anything? And really, yes, you've got this bit of, do we want to fight another day with short-term tactics? But again, do you want to destroy your brand? Is your brand worth destroying? Are you going to destroy it? Do you really have the time to get this out and have impact with it? Or is this just going to be, effectively a fart into the ether of the world and no one cared? So you really have to do some soul searching. If you got the other problem, we talk about the survive, live another day. The other thing I would probably recommend is sometimes it's best to go to the woodshed and take your beating. Because let me tell you, you're going to have to come up with another promotion in January. You're going to end up driving stuff for Q1. It's always going to be in here. And, sales and marketing have to carry this sometimes. And you do. You have to feel dirty sometimes. That's kind of part of the ground sales people. You have to do that. And you are using promotions as a mechanism to learn to get to the next point of being better. But doesn't mean they're wrong. Doesn't mean you can't use them. Just proceed with caution. So while we're here, I get to do my little advert. We've got Guido Scientific. I think there are 9 of us now. We have 4 senior consultants in the market. And we've got these courses and programs we do for training salespeople, doing business development training and so on. And we've got all of these things as well as general consultancy and sales. One of the big things we've got into lately is basically helping startups sell or connecting them to buyers. So we've done a lot of work with that. And generally, I trade in advice and helping people. Whether or not you have budget for that, that's something that, always willing to help people do and talk about where they're at and what they want to do with this stuff. Anyway, what else we got? Buy a book. I sent some out, but buy a book. The next webinars we're doing, and Scott has a bunch of VOC things, Dan has some other stuff that he wants to do as well, but the next ones really are that we're going to talk about, like, what would the long-term plan look like, particularly for brands and value propositions, and what should be making and where you fit. And that big, and maybe it's long-term, maybe it's mid-term. Longer term, you're going to have products in there, and it depends how fast you can make products. So we're going to stay on this kind of theme of what is going to fix something for a longer term, short-term tactics, long-term tactics. And then we're going to look at things like really pipelines, forecast misses, and how to do proper ops reviews and really analyze what's going on. That's a key thing. And at the end of this year, we would have all started with tremendous budgets. And if you hit your budget, congratulations, and you think high five and well done and everything else, then you probably weren't involved in the serious decisions in the background where there were probably people putting stretch targets in and saying things in August last year or in March last year that were about this year that have been wound down or changed in a particular way to get more comfortable. But you could be awesome as well. But realistically, what are these pipelines and what are these forecasts? And I always remember I had this product manager about 15 years ago, and he said, "I've looked at the pipeline for Q-Imaging cameras in August next year. This is in December, and it's awful." And you go, "Yeah, that's a pipeline. It's a pipeline of end user business for products that have a 6-week sales cycle. We're not going to meet those people yet. What you want is a forecast." And we really have to learn the differences, and we really have to learn what they are, how we can operate them, and how we can interpret them in our teams. All right, look, I did that 31 minutes. I must have gotten at least 10 strange random stories from my past. That's good. That's a normal one. I talked about the book and done the other bits and pieces. Well, hopefully that's it. Got a 15-second delay. I'll stay here for a minute if you've got questions. Normally, I'm not too engaging. I'll just tell you what I think if you've ever met me. That's normally how it works. But I'm here. Ask any questions, or if not, we will catch up another day, and hopefully you can join us on the 8th of November. Remember the 8th of November, as they say. What was the 5th? Anyway, I'm here and I'm going. So I will wait in silence, in an uncomfortable silence, until people say goodbye. Excellent. Thank you very much. Thanks, Ben. Right, guys, I'm going to say goodbye now. I'm going to leave you there. This is going to go up. We have a YouTube channel. We normally put these things out afterwards. Thank you once again. And if you ever need any help, let me know. We don't always charge. We always have a little chat with stuff anyway. We're always interested. And we normally because we can give you ideas, but people actually generally need help doing things. So anyway, we will catch up later on. Enjoy your weekend and autumn or fall, as you call it. And have a great time. All right. Thanks very much. Hope to see you soon. Thank you. Bye now.